Good afternoon. It's 1 sharp. We start. So welcome to Key Management and Basic Key Usage for Encryption 101. Notice the key word, pun intended, 101. This is an introductory classes, right? The presentation. It's about giving you some insight. So there are some people here that know this thing already. So don't count on me to wake you up when you doze off. And for those that are new and want this, learning, we're going to talk, 5 minutes of life cycle key management. I think you'll be okay. 10 minutes, there may be some yawning. I'm going to try to do my best to keep you awake for 40 minutes. So one more thing, just so you guys are focused on the presentation. I have an accent. And I know a few of you, I know how the human mind works. A few of you will say, well, what accent is that? Where's that you come from? And then you're going to spend and focus your 40 minutes to figure out what accent I have instead of the presentation. So I'm going to make you at ease. I am French from France, not Canadian. Canadian French have an accent. Us French, we know they have an accent. I don't have an accent. I'm French. Okay, so why did I choose this topic, right? Because then we talk about the encryption. It's all over the place, right? It's about data protection. I'm Alain Petit. I should have started with that, by the way. I'm a cybersecurity architect for Capital One, and I've been doing this for a couple of decades. And the reason why I really like architecture and security, the security architect, is because of the problem we're facing in a society which is technically savvy, and with the technology changes and the volume expectation, the compelling problem we have to solve, it's staggering. It keeps me on my toes. There's always a learning. There's always something I have to know, right, to do my job. And that's what thrills me in my profession. So doing my work, I have to review project, development code, and vendor product, right? And when I do so, basically, I listen to their speech, their demo, and they're telling me, oh, we're going to show you how wonderful this product is. And I'm very quiet, by the way, and I listen to them. And then after that, they say, do you have any questions? And I say, sure, I do. I have questions, right? What do you do for data protection? And at that point, the answer is very, very quick. It's in our brochure, Alain. We are encrypting data with AES-256. And that's it. Done. Here's a paper. Where you sign it, approval, we need your approval. But there's more to the story. I'm going to pause and come back to this now. I'm an architect. We use abstraction and we use analogy a lot in our work. Why? Because it's complex. Everything is complex, right? We have a lot of technology, and if you go down in the weeds, it's extremely complex. So we do diagramming, we do boxes and lines to abstract that complexity and simplify. This is not just to communicate to you guys and to our leadership and to others. This is also for us, because we need to be able to ingest this complexity. We also use analogies, because analogies help us bridge for something that is common and something is not common. For this presentation, I'm going to use an analogy. I'm going to use a house, door lock, and the key. And there is a good reason for this. I don't know if all of you have done encryption. And if you've done, I don't know how much you've done it. But I'm pretty sure all of you have used a door handle and a lock for your house, at least once in your life. So I'm pretty compelled to know that you know the concept of locking your door and locking your house. And I do the synergy between the two. Is it going to be always equivalent? No, there's some time I'm going to stretch a little bit. It's like, and you're going to say, hey, Alain, you're going way too far on this analogy here. That doesn't work that way. Granted. But it is for you to get the concept. So when somebody says my data is protected, I'm AES-256, like the vendor. It's like if somebody was saying, you want a house? It's protected. There's a door handle and a key. Okay. How does that make me feel that it is secure or not? And so basically, when we go to those vendors, and then you see what, the brochure and stuff like that, and they give me AS256, it's not enough for me. The very next question I ask them is about, what about your key management? And then there, at that point, we go into a different story. So that's what we're going to drill down in this presentation. We're going to go through key types, and I'm going to compare very often, house and cryptology and house and cryptology, is to try to help you understand the concept. We're going to address some of the key life cycles. Same thing, we're going to compare houses, and then we're going to compare the software. And then we are talking about challenge, and then after that I will go into the best practice. Now, what is a takeaway I would like you to get from this? Basically, what I would like you to be able to take away from this is like, encryption is easy, but key management is hard. And therefore, when you're going to talk to your developers or project, or you talk to vendors, and they tell you it's protected, you have nothing to worry about, it's AF256, and you say, well, okay, got it, thank you, it's on the brochure that I can read. Tell me about your key management lifecycle. How do you manage your keys? And that is the main takeaway I want you to do this. And there'll be other where we will talk about it. Key types. We're going to start with the house. A few things here. The first one is just a regular lock, right? And we never think about this lock, right? Because we just take the key, we open, and we close. There's a terminology that you may want to familiarize yourself. This key here will lock your door and will unlock the door. The same key does both. In the software industry, you call that a symmetric key. A symmetric key that can encrypt data and decrypt data. It's the same key. We have your garage opener here. Everybody may have some or not. This is a clicker, right? It sends the signals, and then the garage opens. Analogy for this, for me, is a bearer token. We talked about bearer bounds at the this morning presentation, right? I was looking at bearer definition, right? The bearer is somebody that holds or carries something. And you know what? Some of the example in the on the Webster and other thing, it was bearers of bad news. It's an expression that's really used once in a while. And that a bearer token for me is a bearer of bad news. And it's again a synergy that you would think have no relation, but a bearer token is whoever bears this will open the door. And that's why you want to be very critical about these things that are bearer, right? Now, some of you may say, hey, Alain, the key? If I have the key, yeah, I can, I'm a bearer of the key, therefore I can open it, which is true. But it is much easier to duplicate the signals of a garage opener. The modern one had a rolling pin, they're editing, so it's harder, but the concept is there. The new modern one here are basically, the one-time password. You set it up on your phone and you give it to maybe to, a cleaning lady or something like that. And then they come in, they put the code once, they go in, but they can't put it again. So these are some of the key type we have. So I won't talk about key type on the encryption, but before we do so, I'm going to do a side notes here and talk about encryption. So encryption is about scrambling data, right? And there's two pieces on there that are important. There's the algorithm. Think of the algorithm as a recipe. The algorithm is known, right? Think about a cooking recipe. It's explained there. But then you have your special ingredients, the one that make it different, that make yours. Well, in encryption, it's a key. The key is what makes that algorithm different from a person A or person B using it. If you use the same key, you will have the same outcome. the principle of encryption, and I'm going to take this as a very crude, it's not even simple, it's like, I can't even say it's encryption, but it's to give you the concept of encryption. There's two things that mostly done. There's others, big mathematical equation there, but the main principle is you do substitution and you do transposition. And you do this, the algorithm do it very differently. Sometimes they do it like 16 times, sometimes they do it more, sometimes they do it less. It depends on what the algorithm is done. So for keepsake here, we're gonna do a very simple algorithm, right? We're gonna say whatever the key is, the first number will be how many letters we're gonna substitute in alphabet. So if we were saying my first number is 1, then the A becomes a B becomes a C. That's this substitution. And then the second and other numbers will be how many column we're gonna put to transpose, right? And it could be 1 to n. So in this crucially good example, and please do not even say that you're encrypting using this example, because that would be, I don't know, I wouldn't even be able to talk about it, it's terrible. But let's say the key is 2, right? And we have defined an algorithm. We say the first number is how many we substitute a letter. So it's hello world. That is what's the plain text we're trying to decipher. You can see that he's gonna go into substituting 2 letters here, J and N, Q, and that is now a substitution. Transposition is going to be the second. There's only 1, 2, so it's 2 column, 1 and 2. So we're going to take the JJ, so instead of going column, now we go row, row, row. And then that's going to become your cipher text. This is your encrypted. So somebody no longer knows that this is hello world. And then if you want to do it again, to reverse it, well, you're basically going to put it back into the column, and then you're going to shift, but this time -2. And then now you're going to go back, and then hello world back. An algorithm's going to do this much more thoroughly, with more substitution. There may be different tables. It may not just be the ABC, maybe others. There may be different data plane, and there may be 16 rounds of substitution and 16 rounds of transposition. The point is that for you to permute all these action, all possible, it will take you so much computing power and so much time that maybe it will take you 3,000 years. That's the key, right? It's like you can decrypt it, but it will take a lot of time. So, now that you have an understanding a little bit about this, we're going to talk about some of the key. We talked about the house keys, now we're talking about the software key. Symmetric keys. A symmetric key is a key that will encrypt the data, and that same key will decrypt the data. So one key. The token authentication, that's the one where it's not really a key, but it is a way to give you an access. And so you're using it as a access token for, maybe going into a system. OAuth 2.0 is one of those things. The protocol use. Ephemeral keys, they're used one time and then discarded. Session key, that's what you think about when you have a web, you're doing a connection on the web, there may be a session key in that connection. When the session is done, that key is gone. So it's temporary. And then you have the asymmetric keys. They're very ubiquitous into the web, but basically it's like I have a key to lock or encrypt the data, and I need a private key to decrypt it. The public key cannot decrypt it. My analogy there is like you want to put something in the log box so you can lock it, but you cannot unlock it. Only the mailman can unlock it because he has the key that allows him to do so. an analogy, if let's say that you have a lock in your house and you have to use one key to lock it, but you cannot unlock it with that key. You have to have a different key to unlock it. So you have two keys now. So before, you know, we have a problem managing keys as human beings. Now we have two keys, one for locking. So think about it. Now you want to unlock it. You have to find out the right key, put it in, and lock it. Or you want to lock it, you have to find the right key. And if you have different lock and different keys, it's becoming a little problem. My point is, with asymmetric key, it's take you more time to open and close your door than it would take with a symmetric key. And that analogy in the door opening, and you need more keys, therefore it takes more time to find the right key. It's true in the software. A symmetric key encrypts faster. An asymmetric key is slower. And so why are you using the key pair? It's really because we want to exchange a symmetric key and using the key pair to exchange that key. Because that's the problem, is the symmetric key, you want to protect it. So we're going to go into the key life cycle a little bit. This is our day-to-day house. Well, we have locks and keys. They're manufactured. We don't usually do it ourselves. I mean, if one of you has created their own lock and key, we need to talk, because I usually go buy them. So this is kind of given to us, right? We trust it. It's manufactured for us. So we have an implicit trust. Now, we have now the locks installed in our house, and we have the keys. What do we do with them? Well, I have one in my keychain. My spouse may have one, and then the kids may have one, and then, you know, the parents, the in-laws, whatever, you may have some. It's like key distribution now, right? What do you do with those keys when you're not using them? Well, there could be in your wallet, in your purse. It could be attached in the keychain. You know, you go home, and then what do? You put the key on the keychain, right? That sounds like a normal thing to do. Then the next stage is we're using the key, right? We talk about it, lock and log the keys. That's pretty normal. And then the life cycle is we no longer need the key. So all of us, when we no longer need the key, we go in the garage and we destroy it. Not. We put them in the box. Right? Why do we put them in the box? Because we don't know. I may not know what the key is. So is that honey? Is that the key for the front door? Do you know? I don't know. Okay. Put it in the box. And so this probably 10, 15 years later. But what if I need it? What if I need it and I don't have it? I found a lock, I don't have a key. I'm going to go to my box and I'll try to buy one. This concept is not bad, by the way, because this is also called archival. Right? We archive a key because we're not sure we may need it. What if I need it? And you remember when you say, I don't need this, I'll toss it away. And then a week later, it's like, I just toss it away. For years I didn't need it, now I tossed it away. So you keep it. Well, let's look at the life cycle for the key. So we generated a key, right? That's a gibberish in there. And then we are going to distribution. And distribution, I mean, well, if my software needs the key, or if a person needs the key to encrypt, I need to give it to them. For that, a key management service, which are, some software would be nice to have. And then you have your key usage. Remember, we have an encryption key, we're encrypting. This is where your transposition, substitution is happening. So we have like a text going into ciphertext. Then it's decrypted when we need to decrypt it. And then we go to destruction and archival. We don't need the key. Well, you delete that thing, it's deleted. So what happens if you delete the key and you find data that was encrypted with that key? Can you ever decrypt that data? Well, it depends, right? But If we things where it takes 3,000 years, you say, you're going to go to your, boss, so it's like, we can't decrypt it. We lost it. So we have a tendency to archive those keys, right? Keep a copy in case we need it. That's the same thing that we have in our little box here. Now this rotation here, if we need to rotate that key, we usually archive, we could destroy, but when we create another one, it's kind of rotation, so it's implied. All right. If I was able to spend time with each one of you, this is where I would have fun. I would say, okay, we talk about keys. I would ask you, so how long have you been in your house? Okay. Let's say that it's yours. Because, sometime I ask a person and say, well, I just moved in yesterday. So, it doesn't make the compelling story at that point. And then when I ask my brother, they say, I don't have a key, so it doesn't work with him. That's like, really? You don't have a key? No, my door is open all the time. I don't know where the key is. So he's not one subject here. But now it's like, I ask you, so how long have you been in your house? How many keys do you have? Okay. Do you know where the keys are? Well, I give one to my spouse. Have you, since the conception of distributing those keys, been aware where the keys were at all times from you and your loved ones? Can you tell me if at any time those keys were not accounted for? Do you have a spare keys? Do you know where it is? Right? Most people say, I think we have 3. No, maybe I have 4. I think I had to make a duplicate some 10 years ago. I may have 5 or 6. Where are the copies? Well, I have one with me. Where are the other one? Well, my wife has one. And where are the other 3? I don't know. Okay. So, let's look at a few things here. Have you put your key in the house, get in, close the door, and then minutes or hours later, it's like, where are my keys? You're looking for them. You say, maybe they're in the car. So you go out and you say, oh, silly me, look at that. They're right there. They're on the, I forgot to put them out of the door lock. Or, why don't I put a spare under the mat? Because what if I need it? What if I don't have my key with me? Or you know what, the flower pot, because nobody will get there. What if you're at Starbucks or a coffee shop, and you're working, you have your stuff, your computer, stuff, and you want to get your drink, your drink is back there, right? So you get up and you go get it. Let's say it takes you 15 seconds to do so. Usually you kind of walk in front of you looking where the coffee is. You don't look backwards because you may stump into things. It will take somebody with skills between 2 to 10 seconds to imprint that key on that table. So basically, what I'm trying to tell you right now is at any time that we cannot account for what happened to those keys, or there's a length of time they were not under your protection, there's a possibility of key compromise, which means you can no longer trust the key. And that's a very important concept, and nobody cares about this, because who would want to go in my house? Well, my son recently bought a house, and he had a keypad entry, and he needed to change a code. And he said, well, I don't know what to do if there's no more battery, I can get in. And then when I went to look at it, I said, well, look, there's a keyhole there. There's a key we go with that lock. Oh yeah, the landowner said they lost it a long time ago. I said, well, how do you know? You can't trust that lock, you gotta change it. And he went to buy a new one. You remember we bought those locks? We trust them? Would you trust this one? This is a key, right? This is a lock. Remember, my data is protected, AES 256. Can you sign on the approval, Alain? But wait a minute. What type of encryption did you put on there? What type of security did you put on there? My house is protected. I have a lock and key. That's not protection, right? Any kid can open this, right? Like a paperclip will probably do this. So key types and locks are important for your house. Well, the same thing would go for, when you encrypt. So we're talking about keys, right? So this is like a sample. It's in the config file, right? And I have, a data encryption key right there in the config file. A red flag is because, as a security person, you see this, it's automatically like, why don't you come and take my data? Come on, it's free, go and take it. Because once this thing is there, it's exposed. So the key takeaway there is like, this should never happen, right? You should never have that. This is about the same thing as you left your key on your door. It's the same thing. Anybody can come and grab and make a copy of it. All right, so let's go into the best practices for the house. Stating the obvious, right? Don't let your key on the door. Don't put a spare key so it's obvious to find it, right? Change your locks when they're compromised or you think you're compromised. Now, this is a hard one, right? Because these things are not cheap, and then they take a lot of skill. So, maybe at that point you can change the number if there's a, hybrid between the key and then you don't. If you give people the code and don't the key, and you know where their keys are managed, they're in that vault there in your house, then you can change the code. That's a rotation. That's a good thing to do. So we're going to go in those key management aspects one by one, right? And generation, storage, in use, archive, and destroyed. So that's going to be, what we're going to focus on. So we talk about, the left side where we have a generation key, there was basically some, random number for the key here. So the key takeaway, when somebody say, my data is encrypted, I'm using AS256, you want to know about their key lifecycle management. So how do you create your data, right? And I almost guarantee to you, you're going to talk to a vendor and you're going to say, okay, I understand you're doing data protection. Tell me about your key management. I say, well, we do good key management. We have, we're using AWS KMS. I say, well, how do you create your keys? Right? And they won't know. They say, let me talk to my engineer. I'll ask him. So you want sufficient strength and randomness when you create a key. That's very important. If somebody can guess what your key is, or you're saying it's I used the date and I had a string to it, it's easily guessable, right? So you see that password. This is a 256-bit key. Remember AES 256, Advanced Encryption Standard 256? This will encrypt your data. And it's protected. It's AES 256 protected. Alain, you need to sign on my approval here. But if that's a password and you know it, then that encryption means nothing. It's like I have a best lock in my door, but my keys is everywhere. Everybody has a copy of my key, so they can get in. So you want to have a strong key generation with a strong randomness. The distribution, so this is where on the software you want to make sure that, okay, so who has access to that key? Are they permitted? And how do they get it? Right? So a vendor say it's AS256. And then where is your key? If we put it into a hardware security module where it's in a vault, a software vault, Alan. So that's good, right? And then you find out later that every employee has access to that vault. Everyone in the company. All right, then but okay, Do the junior developer needs it? No, it doesn't need it, but he has access to it. So it's compromised. Because at that point, you cannot guarantee that only the person that's supposed to have that key has that key. So this is part of trying to understand what the keys, how they're distributed. And again, here, the vendor has told you it's AES-256 encrypted. That's all you need to know. So key storage. So that's where the vendors say, well, we're using a vault, right? So you have hardware security module. Think about your iPhone and your Android phone. They have security chips on there. That's a hardware security module, right? If you were to break that phone and take the chip and trying to read it, it would not let you do it. So these are available also in the industry, but they're usually more expensive. But they're interface as a service you can use. Vaults are like, I'm thinking Secrets Manager on the cloud. I'm thinking HashiCorp Vault. These are also software that basically will make sure that whatever is in there is very encrypted and secured. And then only with the permission you can retrieve it. So the key in use. So this is important. This is where you want to use the right key for the right purpose. So let's say you have an encryption key and you're doing an algorithm, and then another developer say, hey, can I use it? It will save me time. I don't need to recreate my own and stuff like that. Now you're diffusing your keys to several purposes. So you no longer have control what that key means and it does. And then now you may not correctly protect it, so now you're compromised because of this. So use the right key for the right purpose. And if you need a one-time key, then it's not the same as a long-lived key or a symmetric key. The rotation here, the time of life, the life cycles of that is very important. So changing keys is a good practice if it's well managed, right? Because the example where the company is doing good encryption, they're putting their keys in the vault. Let's say they rotate it every day, but everybody has access to it. Your weakest link is everybody has access to it. They were doing everything correctly. But if you're rotating your keys on a regular basis, then if a key has been compromised, you're not really worried about it. Like, you have your house and then you're changing your lock every year. Well, a key was lost 2 years ago. I don't care. I know it's changed since then. And then the key archive. So the archival, and again, there could be in the vault, but this is where you want to keep those keys in case you need to decrypt data. The data could be into, let's say, archives itself, Glacier if you're using the cloud, or they could be, all data that suddenly you want to look into it. And this is where, if you have destroyed the key, it's lost forever. So archival is something kind of needed. Only when you're absolutely sure that key can no longer be used, if you have done a good management of it, then you should be able to get rid of it. And then the key destruction, that's pretty much, you remove it. It's deleted. Deleted may not be as easy as you think, because if you have backups in your archive, then there may be remnant of it. So you may not know if you really deleted it or not. So that's something that to keep in mind as well. So encryption is easy, key management is hard. So remember that. If you have to remember one thing from this presentation is that encryption is easy, key management is hard. And you want to ask those questions to your developer, to your project, to the vendors. And that's really where you want to spend time. Because most of every brochure you're going to have in the commerce right now, they're going to tell you that Data protection is very important to them, and they're using AES 256. But that is only, the tip of the iceberg. You want to understand how they are managing their keys, who has access to it, what rotation they have. These are the things that are very important for you to find out. So that is a thing, right? It's very important when you talk to these people to drill down to those details. And they need to explain it to you. They just, sometimes some of the vendors, they're going to go and then they're going to throw technology jargon at me. And I know some of it, but I don't know all of it. So I was like, I don't understand. You need to explain to me in lame terms so I understand. So yeah, if I can't follow your thought process and now you're doing your key management protection, I don't have confidence you're doing it well. And that it's come with practice. And as a security architect, it's like always like peeling the onion, right? I start with the onion, and then they say something, and I say, okay, well, you said that you're managing the keys. Let's talk about that. And then we dig, and then after that, say, so how long is your key? What was the life cycle of your key? How long does it stay alive? Right? Well, my key has not been changed for 5 years. Okay. So my house key has not been changed for 10 years. If I left on the door, is it possibly compromised? Yeah, it is. So that's sorry, there's a pun there. It's a key takeaway from this presentation. Is do not take data protection for granted. Ask question. Make sure you understand the key management. And then when you go home, try to figure out where your keys are for all those time and all those years. Talk to your members, right? Especially kids, They will let the key run around there. So, and with that, I think we're done. I have my LinkedIn profile in case you need to contact me, but I thank you very much for your attention. The good news is I don't think I saw more than a couple people dozing off, so most of you stay awake, so that was a good news. That's a good thing. Thank you.